Well, it's been a while since we've had this man on here with us. He's actually, I think, in his second or third year as general manager of our 73s. Absolute wagon going on right now. They're 26-1-1. Let's welcome to the show again, 73s GM Mike Pailey. Mike, what's up, man?
Hey guys, thanks again for having me on. It has been a while.
It's been too long.
Yeah. It's I think the first time we did it, we were on lawn chairs in your basement, and we had to run over and get beers out of a cooler. And now you guys are a big outfit here with studios and live streaming. So it's good though. I know how much our guys appreciate coming on here and you guys having them. So
Tris, go ahead, buddy. I know you're chomping at the bit. Let's go, brother.
Well, I guess just to kick it off, I want to ask, how has the experience been so far, just being general manager, coming in? Talk about that, what it was like to start up as a GM.
Well, it was definitely different for me. It was, and certainly the time I came in was the COVID year. So that was kind of a difficult situation because, you came in, you obviously wanted to make an impact. We did our best to start doing some recruiting and get things going, workouts and that kind of thing. And we kind of got teased a little bit, we got pushed out with COVID and everything like that. So I was extremely excited to come in here, and I still am, by the way. I'm still very excited to be here. The first year, obviously being COVID, was a little bit tough when they shut us down. I think we refocused on what we needed to do last year, and I think we made some big improvements last year with our team. Mm-hmm. And then this year here was obviously a year where we wanted to recruit well in the off season. And I feel like we did. And to go back to your original question, what's it feel like? I absolutely love it here. I love coming to the rink every day. We've got a great group of players, and I don't mean that on the ice. Of course they're playing well, but we have a great group of individual young men off the ice as well, which is very easy to come here and not have to worry about, too much drama or anything like that. And then, of course, in the coach's office, we have a good staff that like to be around each other. So it makes things very easy when you enjoy coming to the rink every day, and I do. So the experience so far in Essex has been second to none. I to take my coaching hat off and put this hat on, I didn't know how I do. And I guess depend on who you ask, I don't know how I'm doing, but I feel like we've made some good strides here, and I feel like we're heading in the right direction. And I should say this, it's not like I came into a franchise or a hockey club, that struggled with fan base or stuff like that. I mean, realistically, I had the opportunity to come into a very tradition-based hockey team that had a lot of history here and had a lot of good things going forward already. So hopefully I've been able to impact that and bring it to the next level here if we could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see numbers in the stands going up every week. Every week it's up, it's more. So you guys are obviously doing something right. So Mike, what I want to know, is there anybody new on the team that kind of threw you off guard that's doing, obviously, everybody's going to do well. You have them on the team for a reason, but is there anybody that is kind of just has you going, wow?
Yeah. Well, attendance is up in this town because we sell beer at the games.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
But no, I'm being sarcastic. Obviously.
That's probably partially true.
I'm sure it helps. I'm sure it helps. Man, I'll tell you, to answer that question, was there any surprises? I think we, going into this season, it's no secret. Last year when we turned over a lot of our team, from the time we started and we had everybody signed in mid-September to January 10th, which was the trade deadline last year. I think we turned over 8 players, which is 100% more than we wanted to do. But had some opportunities there, had some guys that we felt, may or may not have we had some better opportunities, we felt like, to improve our hockey team. And And when that comes up, we have to do it. So going into this season, I feel like we had a good base, the guys that were coming back. Probably the biggest surprise this year with us getting the injury bug and playing, 8, sometimes 9 guys short some nights is the quality of the APs that we've had come in too. We've had guys that came in as APs here that, could easily play in this league on our team as well. So we were extremely lucky to recruit some of those guys as APs. And you never really think at the beginning of the year, oh boy, we better have a strong AP class. But I mean, this year in particular, we've had guys that came in. I don't want to miss anybody, but, guys that we didn't know how they would do when they got here and fit right in with the team, quite honestly. Like we put these guys in tough situations and against big teams, and they came out shining and learned our systems, a bit of practice, that kind of thing. So to answer your question, at the beginning of the year, we didn't know about 16-year-olds. We signed Goovy. There, we had a couple other ones that were at camp that are APing with us right now with Cale McCabe and Travis Sevick. They were obviously in the mix too. Goovy's had a good season, so I would say I'm not surprised by that, but when I look at the board, which is right here, we were expecting a lot out of our players this year, and I feel like we recruited well in the off season, bringing in, guys like Arch, Hammer, Goody, Cracks, a couple of these guys that we had our eye on. We were fortunate enough to land them here, and they've certainly helped us out. So
Love it.
Yeah. So talking more into this, I understand it's kind of it's integrated with the scouting team as well, bringing in those players. But I'm curious if there was any specific traits you looked for in those players to add to the team. Like I know Jake Archer, for instance, brings a one-timer, which could help you out your power play and more. Speak to that.
Yeah, Arch was a funny one. I mean, we started on him last year. We knew he was in Markham, and then he went to the States to play. He came out for skates with us in the summer, not knowing where he was going to be. And Arch called me, and I was actually in Nashville on vacation, and Arch called, and I had to take the call. And he said that he was interested in coming to Essex, and of course we were excited about him. Obviously playing at a higher level, even if you look at his points and stuff from last year, we figured he was a guy that could excel at this level. We've seen him play. But yeah, I would say, Tristan, from a recruiting aspect, I would say, obviously you look at positions and see who you need. And then I think you look at, for us anyways, look at who's available, who can we get, how are they going to fit in the team? I mean, one of the questions we always ask is, are we getting in a good person? I've always said that, and then, obviously with Arch and Hammer and Goody, I don't want to miss anybody here, because I know we picked up some, most of our defensemen came back, but we also picked up, McCracken, Gouvermont, Barrett, these guys were all, character players that fit in with the team. Obviously identifying where you need positionally is one thing, but making sure that you have good people in here that are going to fit in with the team is probably the biggest thing for us.
One of the guys this year who's really impressed me this year is Luke Shirk. I feel like he's really come out of his shell, that he's really like he's an all-around fucking player now. Like he's so good. He's already got 20 or 21 goals, and you have him for another 3 years, don't you?
Yeah, we're extremely lucky with Shirky. I mean, I don't want to just isolate Shirky, because there are other guys on our team that have passed on playing at a higher level to stay here. Shirky's probably one of them. There's no doubt in my mind that he could play junior B, and there's probably some other guys in here that have done the same thing. They've foregone junior B camps to come here, and that's what's pretty exciting about it. Shirky, he's one of those guys. He's literally a heart and soul guy. I think we put the C on him one night against Wheatley, and he went out and played probably one of his best games. Aside from points, we're not huge stats guys in this room. We don't generally identify like the player of the game doesn't go to the guy that had the most points. It's the guy that played the game the right way and made an impact in the game differently than on the score sheet. So Shirky's one of those guys. You can put him in any situation, power play, penalty kill. He's going to give you 110% every night, and he's going to play through whatever whatever injuries. He's just a tough kid, and we're extremely lucky to have him. One of my favorite players, and he's a little bit of a character here in the room, but he does add a lot to this team. He's a really good kid as well. So we're really lucky to have him.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I would say one guy who's impressed me, Ant, just because I've seen him play for a few years here, and I didn't think he really had this kind of vein in him, but Everett Parent has become a very good offensive player for you guys. Last year he was a great two-way centerman, like fantastic penalty killer, role player, but now he's like really taking the next step, being a top 6 guy.
I agree with you 100%. Pearsy's played, last year. I think last year he got better as the year went on in playoffs. He was really good last year, and he's taken his game to another level this year. I agree with you 100%. He plays the game the right way. You're going to get 110 out of him. And you're right. You look at the stats at the end of the day, and I think Pearsy's in the top 2 or 3 on our team, maybe 3rd or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he deserves it. Like, there's a lot of times where guys get goals throughout the night, and you say, that guy deserves a goal. He's worked his bag off. He blocked the shot. He made the right play in our zone, and next thing you know, the puck's in the net. And he's one of those guys. He's one of those sneaky guys where every night you get in the room and you're doing an assessment of your lineup, and he's always at the top of the list. He's always, what you're getting with him. And again, extremely lucky to have him. He's really good in the dot. He plays a great two-way game, and he's a very honest player, which I don't want to isolate that just to him. We have a lot of guys that are playing the right way, but certainly agree with you, Tristan, 100%. He's been a big asset for us this year.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the other things that's been really big for you guys too is you guys in net. Your goaltending this year is phenomenal. Like, those kids, I think we talked yesterday on the show there, and we said that goals against was like 1.18 and your goals for is like 5. We know Jamie there installs, like, he wants to play defense. He's always worried about your own end first, which is great. So can you just kind of speak on the guys in net and just kind of tell us just how you think they've been so far?
Well, that goes without saying. I mean, you don't get to have a record that we have right now, obviously, without playing, defensive hockey. But I mean, if you guys were at the Lakeshore game the other night, the shots were even. We probably got a few bounces and took advantage of a few breaks, but Kevin played extremely well. He made the saves when he needed to. He's done it all year, to be honest with you. Brider, I mean, we are lucky to have a 1A, 1B situation here where either one of them can go on any night, and we're comfortable with both of them. Like, we're really fortunate to have the 2 goaltenders we are. Obviously with Brider returning last year, he played quite a few games last year, and quietly was one of the best goalies in the league last year too. There's not a lot of buzz around Brider last year, and this year we came in expecting big things out of him, and we got a guy to complement him with Cav very well. And both of them have taken the ball and run with it. They get along well in the room. They support each other. They care about who wins and loses. And it's nice to see both of them at the top of the league, because they certainly deserve it. They both work hard. And of course, hopefully our style of hockey helps them out a little bit. But you're never going to win without good goaltending. It doesn't matter how good your team is. And both of those guys have played extremely well for us down this year. So,
oh yeah, big time.
So, Ant, you talked about the goaltending tandem there. I want to ask Mike about the defenseman that you have. So, what made you guys feel comfortable with the decor you had? Because it's mainly stayed the same. You might have, I know Adam went away for school, but like, what made you guys comfortable keeping the decor the same?
Yeah, that's a good question. We knew about some commitments that we had out there. We do have the same defense. We didn't recruit any defensemen from this year. In fact, we did sign Adam Dunn. It absolutely killed me to hit the send button on the release note. He came in. It's very ironic. We have with the defenseman that we had injured, we had McKim, Noble, and Fieldsy out. And Kimmer and Nobes, we knew were going to be back at some point. Dunner came in at a really good time during the holidays when he was home. We signed him. He's now going to AP with us, which is good. So we can still use him for some games when he's home or down the stretch. But to answer your original question, we dropped Cranker. Cranker was a centerman last year. We dropped him back, and he has been absolutely unbelievable on the back end this year. He still showed a little scoring touch with a nice goal on a penalty shot the other night. But in fairness, we had guys like Balmy and Brady who have been steady the last 2 years. And quite honestly, whenever we bring up names that become available, those guys have taken it to another level here, especially, and the toughest thing for us will do is when we have everybody healthy again, like when Nobes and Fieldsy and Kimmer are back in, now we got 7 defensemen. Having to pick 6 of them is going to probably be the toughest thing. It's a good problem to have, but and even with Trife, like Trife's commitment was to football early in the year, so we spotted him in. And to be honest with you, Trife's played a lot better this year than he did last year too. So these guys haven't given us any reason really to shop around and get some more guys. We've been happy with them and the way they're playing. And obviously with our style, we need the forwards to come back and help out. But having a solid decor and good goaltending is definitely a good start. So
Indeed.
Fieldsy there is wearing the C this year. I just kind of want to know what you guys seen in him to choose him to be the leader of your squad.
Yeah, that was a group decision. I mean, obviously we want to do that as a staff whenever we pick the C's and A's as a leadership group. I do want to say that it could have probably went to 5 or 6 different guys.
I was just gonna say.
I don't, and I don't want to take anything away from Fieldsy because he's definitely a really good leader and a good captain for us. He's got the respect of the players in the room. He's got the trust of the coaching staff. And again, I don't want to take that away from anybody else because at any time we've asked guys to step up and put either a C or an A on, and they've done it. Honestly, I hate the individual side of hockey and the captains and the assistant captains. It's obviously important, but we could put a C or an A on anybody any night, and and be fine, absolutely fine with whoever. I mean, I think it's a really cool thing. It's a good tradition to have your captains and assistant captains, but there's guys that have played their way into positions like that. Get back to your original question. Fieldsy is a guy that has a lot of respect on the ice. He's got a lot of respect in the room. He's a guy that the players look at as a leader in here. We look as a guy that we could bring in and as a mediator between the coach's office to the dressing room, obviously. So Fieldsy was a really good choice for us. Not an easy choice when you're talking about season A's with the quality of people that we have on our team, but definitely could have went to 5 or 6 different guys in my opinion. Happy to have Fieldsy as our captain, and I think he's done a great job so far.
Are we expecting him back anytime soon?
Yeah, I think so. We've got 4 guys that are still out, and I think Fieldsy and Nobes will probably be back around the same time, which I'm thinking is probably 2 weeks out, but I don't know for sure. Probably have to talk to our training staff and obviously the doctors that are involved in it too. We basically have them monitor it. It was nice to get Kimmer back the other night. Now that Dunner's gone. But yeah, little DJ is probably mid-February. Obviously he's still in a boot. So he's got, I think, 3 more weeks before he can even go on the ice. And then Bugsy, I think we're looking at after the cruise, maybe first week of February. I think he's getting some strength back and the pain's gone down. So really screwed up year though. I mean, I've never seen something like this, and I'm hoping we get it out of the way. So 2023 is a better year for us.
Indeed. Speaking on that, going into playoffs, I'm not sure how much you guys get a chance to watch teams outside of the division, but who do you think, aside obviously from Lakeshore in our division, is going to pose the biggest challenge in the playoffs?
I think there's a lot more parity in the league this year than there was last year. I think last year, it was, pretty much down to 4 teams last year that could have won the Stobbs division championship. I think Lakeshore was definitely the favorite. I mean, they had a pretty good lineup over there. I felt comfortable that we could take a run at them, and I think we did. As far as this year goes, I mean, there's probably 5-6 teams this year that are playing well. Obviously, we try to get up for those teams and play big games against those guys too. So as far as outside of our division, like other than the 4 or 5 teams that we have, or maybe 5-6 teams that we have in the Stobbs, I know we don't get a ton of chance to watch the other games. That it's not on hockey TV. I keep up to speed with some of the GMs around the league to see how things are going. Obviously, we do have annual meetings and stuff like that. There's if whoever comes out of the Stobbs division obviously plays the winner of the YEC division, and they're pretty tight there. They're pretty tight at the top. I think there's 4 teams that are at the top there that are pretty close to each other. So who knows? I think North Middlesex came out last year, and they've got some talent on that team. But I know there's some other contenders over there. So whoever it is, if we're fortunate enough to play them, I'm sure it won't be easy. So
no.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, what I like too is, man, Jamie McDermott, what a hire. Like, he's been so good for you guys, and he was like all hesitant on doing it, and it's like, man, how good has he been?
Yeah, we waited that one out. I mean, I talked to Jamie after Danny and I talked after last season. I talked to Jamie right away, and you're right, he was a little bit hesitant on it. But I felt like he wanted to do it. I felt like, I know that it's a bigger commitment to being an assistant coach, and I don't want to take anything away from being an assistant coach, because that's a big commitment too. Obviously with the head coach, it's a bigger commitment. Jamie's done like an incredible job of managing of being able to step in here as the head coach. I can't think of anybody that outside of him. Like we did some other interviews. I did a few other interviews with some other people. Jamie was the guy that I wanted, and I was willing to wait it out. I feel like with his history here, and I even, as an assistant coach here last year, I see that he has the respect of the team and the players, and he was certainly my number one choice. And I just waited it out, got him, waited till he had too many beers, and he committed.
Perfect.
No, I did wait on him, and we were fortunate enough to have him, and he's done a great job with the team. We're playing good hockey right now. And I don't want to take anything away from Danny. Danny was a hell of a coach too. But when he wasn't available anymore, we had to move on, and Jamie was my first choice, and I'm glad he's here.
That's awesome. Now, as it relates to coaching, the power play, which has been clicking very well for you guys. I don't have an exact statistic for it, and I was curious, what do you feel? Is it more coaching or player talents that contributes, or maybe a combination of both?
Yeah, I would say a combination of both. I mean, we're not even really sending out power play units right now. I don't know if you noticed, but like a lot of times we're just rolling the line still. Is that going to stay? I don't know. That'll be up to Jamie and the staff on how they want to, if they want to, get down to 2 units, or, there are guys that play well. Yeah. You mentioned Jake Archer, he finds a little spot over in the side there, and he's a perfect setup guy. He's probably one of our top power play guys. But I mean, at the end of the day, power play is about hard work. It's about retrieving pucks, in the corner, getting the pucks first, making sure your zone entries are clean. not necessarily setting up, but making sure we're getting quality chances and getting pucks to the net. So I think a little bit of both, Tristan. I think you nailed it when you said a combination. I think it's, making sure you have the skill, the guys that can put it in, and then making sure that you have the work ethic to be able to keep the puck down there. Some of the best power plays that are out there are just guys that work hard, and make sure that they're getting those pucks in the corner, getting to the right spot, getting the pucks to the net. And I'll be honest with you, even when I coached in Windsor, some of the best power plays that Eric Wellwood and those guys ran were simple power plays. We're getting the pucks to the net, banging rebounds, and it's sometimes when you're struggling, you got to go that way. We're lucky this year that we've got some goals on the power play, and I think realistically, it's come from all four lines, so it's been good.
It's awesome.
Is there anything you've kind of learned from when you first when you first joined there with the threes? So is there anything that you've learned from then until now?
Oh, I think it's every day. I really do. I mean, that sounds a little bit cliche, but I think you learn something every day as far as what you can do better. And, I talk to our staff about that too. How can we all get better every day? And I mean, this is a PGHL team, but in order for us to hopefully get to or be at the top, I think we all have to get better every day. I've learned whenever you miss a signing or you hear that another team got a player, we always look to say, hey, could we have got that guy? Do we want him? How do we, did we miss out on that? And we have done that. Like, we've saw players go to other teams and be very good, and we passed on them. And at that point, you look back at yourself and say, we made a mistake. We made a mistake that we didn't take that player, and that's okay. You have to admit that. You have to say, hey, we can't let that happen again. It slipped by us, and then you move on. I think though, every day I'm learning something, whether it be something to do with the team or the staff, or how do we make the 73s better every day. I think that's on all of us as a group, but I take it personally, and if we are making mistakes, hopefully we're changing them so we don't make the same mistake again. But answer your question, every single day I'm learning something about the game, personalities, relationships. I mean, which is one of the biggest things that to becoming a good coach or a good manager, is making sure that you have the respect of the players and the staff, and then obviously are able to work with them and make sure that they're getting what they need. So
Perfect.
Since you've been hired on, up to this point, what would you say is your favorite memory, or maybe a favorite game that you've watched the boys play?
Oh, that's a good question. Playoffs were exciting last year. It didn't end the way we wanted to. My favorite memory would be probably the Moortown game. We were tied 1-1 in that series, and that series was supposed to be tough. Like, the year before, we lost in the second round to Wheatley. I'm sorry, to Lakeshore. That was the COVID year, so we barely got by Wheatley. So it was, that Moortown team was good. They, on paper, I think they matched up well against us. And Kimmer scored that goal in overtime. I would say that probably broke their heart. We ended up going back to Moortown and beating them 4-0 in one of the best games we played all year, and then came home and I think the Carter, Connor, and Bugsy line lit it up in the first period there, and then decided the series was going to be over. I would say, as far as memories go, I mean, short term, I would say probably the Moortown playoff game, game 3 in Essex, was probably my most exciting time, I guess, as since then. But the playoffs last year, even against Lakeshore, I felt were good. I think we played well. The injury bug got us there, but again, I'm not saying we should have won that series if everybody was healthy. Lakeshore had a really good team, and we needed to be at our best to be in that series. And I feel like we were. I would have been nice to have another crack at him in game 7 and see what happened, but nevertheless, I would say that's probably one of my favorite memories up to date is on the ice. So
yeah, that's awesome.
You actually just brought him up there. Our boy Connor, he has been I thought he's another one of the guys on the team that's really come out of his shell this year, that's really been playing well. I see him kind of doing it on all aspects of the game. I see him doing stuff good and our end, and he's scoring goals and all of that. So can you just kind of touch on him and just how good he's been this season?
Yeah, he's like one of the other guys that you just mentioned not too long ago. Like Dembo's been a staple in our lineup here. Lucky he's been healthy. We're lucky to have him and his brother. I mean, both of them are big hockey guys. They love the game. They love the 73s. Dembo's played very well this year. Again, I think a lot of these guys put it on them that they have to get points, and I think now that the tide's changed a little bit where no one's really looking at the points, I think guys have bought in, and the guy that maybe put his head down at the end of the game, we won 4-0 and he didn't get any points. That guy hangs his head a little bit. Those guys aren't there anymore. Those guys are saying, hey, who cares? We won. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter. And Dembo's one of those guys. He's a team first guy. He's a steady player for us. He's a guy that we can rely on. You can play in like in a lot of situations. He plays some PP. I think most of the year so far he's been playing with Hammer and Halsey, which I think they complement each other very well. And he's just an all around good guy. We had the C on one night here. And he was very proud of that, and we were excited that it was on him as well. Again, many guys could wear it, but certainly Dembo's a really good guy. Fits in really good with the room, and lucky to have him.
That's Ethan's guy, man. Like Ethan, like every game I have to explain to him, like he has to go off the ice too. He can't be on the ice the whole game. Like he needs to rest too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I think, you got a couple of pictures with him and stuff like that. So, and Connor's good. Dembo's good with that. He's anytime you need, he's got time. He helps out in the community. Anything you need in the dressing room, he's there for you. He's just an all around good person.
Yeah.
So another guy you had just mentioned playing on that line with Dembo and one of your longer tenured players, Liam Hall. Talk about what you see in a player like Liam. I know he's very heart and soul, and he's worn the C a couple of times this year. So talk about him.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable this year. I mean, Halsey's a good player. And he was a good player last year, so I don't want to take anything away from him. But if you want to talk about a guy that took his game to another level, and I'm not talking about points. I mean, that guy put aside anything in his mind about points, anything that, he doesn't chirp, and he can still beat the wheels off you. Like, don't take that the wrong way. Like he'll mix it up and he'll stand up for his teammates. And that guy has been absolutely incredible this year. Halsey has been great on and off the ice. I know he volunteers his time back in the community a lot too. He's been incredible in the dressing room. Just a guy where, again, I sound like a broken record here, but we're really lucky to have Halsey on the ice. He's playing the game the right way. There's nothing selfish. There's nothing half-ass. He works his bag off. He sets the bar on this team. I'll tell you that. He's been a staple in our lineup. And when he got his knee banged up, he's one guy that I definitely missed in the lineup. But incredible. Like I would say, one of our best players this year, and I don't want to single anybody out because we got a lot of them. But Halsey's been absolutely unbelievable this year. Stepped it up from last year. Not that he played bad last year, but a different level this year for sure.
I think he got in a scrap the other night too, didn't he?
Yeah, he fought in Dresden the other night. Things were going a little sideways there, so I don't blame him. There was a couple of I don't know, like cracks and Firthy got into it, and I think there was a bunch of chirping, so I think he had to do it. So
Halsey just said, "Fuck it."
he did a good job. He did a good job. He did what he had to do. So.
Yeah, he knows when it's time and when it's not to, and stuff like that. That's where he's good, but he's good like that. So earlier this year, we brought in Lee. Lee skated with the boys. Did he gas him out or what?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of the boys said it was a good skate. I think we brought him in the night before we played in Lakeshore, if I remember correctly. So I don't know if that was the best decision for the lake. But,
actually, that worked out good because we skated with Lakeshore the same night, and we did not realizing that you guys played each other the next day.
Oh, there you go. Good. Well, I'll tell you, the guys liked it, and anytime when you can bring and it goes like even with coaches, right? Like there'll be times where Lee will run a practice, and then there'll be times where Bugsy will run a practice, and then Chatty, and then Nines. Having the different voices and the different practices definitely helps. So anytime you can bring in a guy like Lee to work on something like that, the guys enjoy it because it's a change of pace. They, and not that they get sick of hearing the same voices, but I think they appreciate the change once in a while, and able to be able to just change the pace of practice, right? And again, like I say, our practices are different based on what we feel like, or what the coaching staff feels like we need to work on. So, but it was nice to have him in. I was talking to him afterwards, and hopefully when he's back in the area, we can get him back out to another practice. It was fun.
He skated the shit out of you guys. I was like, whoa, like watching him, I was like, the boys are going to be mad at us.
Yeah. They make some pretty good skaters with some of those drills. They make some pretty good skaters on our team look like they're not, like trying to do some of these drills where you keep your knees together and turn, and it's like,
and the craziest part too is he said too, he's like, when he comes back, like he's like, he wanted to focus more on the minor hockey side of it when he comes back, but his one request was he wants to skate with you guys.
Good. Oh, that's great. I think he like I say, I think the guys enjoyed having him out here. His message to the team, whenever we get anybody at that level that'll want to come in and help us out, we're going to take it. I mean, none of us have skated at that level, so it's really nice when we can get that kind of person in that's willing to help us out, and we appreciated it for sure.
So I know I'm asking a lot about your opinions on the players, but I just love hearing it, and I eat it up. So I got another one. Just in your opinion, and I'm sure the boys, they're not going to take it personally, but who do you think has the hardest shot or best shot, whatever you want to characterize that as, or who has the best passing ability or eyes on the ice?
Oh, hardest shot, man. We got some shooters this year, I'll tell you. Like more so than last year, I would say that we definitely got some shooters this year. On the point, I would say Trife has a pretty good shot. When he snaps it around, he's pretty good back there. I'm not taking anything away from any of the other D. Best shot, man. I've seen Firthy cracks, Hammer, Goody's got a good shot. Arch, man, you're killing me here. I don't know who has the best shot, honestly. I mean, I'd probably ask Caber or Brider. They'd be able to tell you. But so I would say that we probably have 6-7 guys that can sling it around and shoot the puck pretty hard. I mean, it's sometimes you watch it in practice, you're like, geez. Little DJ's got a good shot too. So does Dembo. So but yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. I don't know who has the hardest shot. I mean, I'll tell you what, I'll ask Caber and Brider. They'll be able to give you an answer on that.
Of course. Thank you.
As far as guys that see the ice well, I mean, probably one of the best guys that see it well isn't in our lineup is probably Bugsy. He's an all-around good player. He's a really good passer. He's obviously been hurt now for a little bit. Again, I'm probably going to leave somebody out. So it's, I hate doing that. Arch seems to find some different passing lanes than you'll ever see. Like, I mean, he's had some nice passes. Halsey sees the ice well. Our defensemen have been really good. I mean, I feel like I'm skirting the question here, but
all good. It's all good.
We've got quite a few guys. As far as best guys, I don't know. Again, we've got a good deep group that plays the game the right way. So yeah,
can't really complain then.
Great. I don't want to offend any of the boys by saying this, but they already know that I worship this guy like none other, and it's really disappointing he's gone back to school. But Adam Dunn, like, I watched that guy play last year to this year, and he's been off from hockey, and he seemed to come right back even better. Like, he's incredible with his passing ability and just uses the boards, center of the ice, skates it up ice, stays in his zone. Like he's perfect. I just love him as a player.
Yeah, player and person.
Yeah.
The guy is, unfortunately, when we signed him, we didn't know what would happen here at the deadline, which was Tuesday. But we had talked to Dunner ahead of time, and Dunner's taken 7 courses in London at the University of Western Ontario. I believe he's in engineering, and it's very stressful on him. At the beginning of the year, we're allowed to sign 25 guys. We generally try to keep it to 23, which is who we got to have at the end of the year. So we had 24 right up until we released Dunner. I agree with you 100%, and so does our staff. I mean, he comes in here after not playing hockey. I think he's playing intramurals in London, and comes in here and it fits right in. It doesn't miss a beat, and he sees the ice well. He's shifty. He very rarely gets beat. He knows, he's a good passer. He knows when to skate the puck. He's on a really high level. I mean, we'd love to have him here, but we understand his commitment. We're lucky because we did AP him, so we'll get to see him for hopefully 10 more games, maybe down the stretch. Hopefully we stay healthy. That'd be the biggest thing. But I agree with you 100%, Tristan. I mean, that Dunner's a great kid, and he came home during the holidays, and I asked him if he wanted to play, and he was excited about it. And we were very excited to have him. So he did a great job in those 4 games.
Oh, did he ever? I was watching, and I always watched him last year. He was the guy who I was locked when he stepped on the ice. Like Ant, you said, Ethan watches Dembinski and wishes he would never leave. That was me with Adam Dunn. But I saw him this year. He was wearing 3 instead of his usual 10 because Crank he took 10, and I just was like, that little bugger looks like Adam Dunn, and I'm like sitting here, I'm like, oh shit, it is him. Like I saw his face come around the boards. I'm like, oh, he must be home on Christmas break. So that's awesome. So is there any, would he be eligible to play for playoffs with that AP status? Okay.
Yeah, he's got 10 games left. So now that he is signed up to play juvenile. And since we signed him, we had to release him, obviously. But there's no waivers in our league. So he got, and he didn't want to play. He only wants to play here. I asked him when he left for Western if he had any interest in playing junior B up in the London area, and then asked him if he wanted to play at our level up there, and he wanted to concentrate on school. But we made kind of a deal that when he came home he would play here, which is great. And now that he's gone, we've got him signed here for 10 games, and he can play playoffs, he can play games down the stretch. He'll be a big asset for us if we need a defenseman. He obviously knows how to play the game, and knows all the boys in the room. Would love to have him here full time, obviously, but certainly understand what his commitment's at. Hopefully next year we can do the same thing. We'll get him signed to a card, and we'll see him the first half of the year, and then figure it out from there. He's a kid that we'd love to have around anytime.
So you mentioned the trade deadline. So it was Tuesday, 7:00 was the trade deadline. I just kind of want to know how it was for you that day. I know you guys didn't make any moves or anything like that. Obviously, you guys are pretty confident in what you guys have. So I just want to know, did you receive some phone calls? Was there interest in any other guys and stuff like that?
Yeah, always. Like the weekend of the trade deadline, usually the week leading up, and then the weekend of the deadline, and then certainly the Monday, Tuesday this year, which was the day before. Quite a few phone calls. I talked to 3 teams in our league, and then the junior B teams, the 2 junior B teams. Honestly, we weren't looking to make a trade. We were really comfortable with what we had. We heard that there might be some opportunities from 2 junior B teams, which I talked to. And we passed on one player that ended up going somewhere else. But honestly, we feel like we've got a good group here. I mean, we've battled through some injuries. We look at our board and say, okay, we're going to bring somebody in but who are we going to let go of? Who are we going to trade? Like, and aside from skill, you know, the way the room is right now is really good. Like the guys all get along. They all have beers together on the weekends or do what they got to do. And we do have a really good group here. So we had to be careful with, you know, upsetting the room. On the flip side, we owe it to our team and our organization to put the best 23 guys in the room. And if there was a better player that came around that we felt like could replace one of our guys, we might have made a deal. But we never got to that point. There wasn't a whole ton of signings in our division or in our league in the Stobbs. There was Lakeshore signed 2 guys. I think there was some, I believe Wheatley signed a player from Dresden. There was a trade there. And I don't know if Amherstburg made any other moves. So I would have to, I know they signed Braden Burke from Leamington. But honestly, there wasn't a ton of movement. A lot of the movement was earlier in the year. We've only released 3 players this year. And, you know, full transparency, it was Colton Cuvion we signed. We didn't know how it was going to work out. Would have been nice to have Cuv stick around. He's an 01, tough player. Great family. We would have liked to have Cooves around. You know, he's battling a few injuries right now and we couldn't keep him around. Obviously we had to release Dunner. So really the only move we made was one at the beginning of the year. It was a tough one, but we made one at the beginning of the year. So as far as trade deadlines go, we were extremely happy with what we had. You know, if the right opportunity would have came, would we have made a move? Yeah, probably. But I think we would have had to be careful of it. And we didn't find a fit that we felt like could step in and replace any of our guys. So kudos to the guys. They've worked their bag off in the room, you know, to stay here. And now, you know, now the tough part comes about putting, okay, we got the best 23 guys in the room, but now we put the best 20 guys on the ice, right? So, hey, you know, hopefully that's the incentive to keep working hard here and making sure they stay in the lineup.
So without saying names, you mentioned a player that you guys passed on. Did this player end up going to Lakeshore?
No.
No? Okay, because I know there was a guy who got dropped. I don't know. Well, you know what? I'll just say his name. Bryce Scarlett.
Yes.
I know he went back to Lakeshore, but
well, they owned his rights, Tristan.
Okay.
Like, because he played there last year. So even we wouldn't have had an opportunity on him unless Lakeshore would have passed. And they wouldn't. Bryce is a very good player. I don't know if it was his decision or if he got let go. I'm not privy to that information, but we wouldn't have had an opportunity with Bryce because Lakeshore owns his rights for 2 years after he leaves. So and the other guy was I believe was LeBlanc, and LeBlanc came from LaSalle. And I, to be honest with you, I didn't talk to LaSalle about any potential moves this year. So they're kind of aligned with Lakeshore. So you know, it makes it tough to get anybody out of LaSalle. It was tough to get Hammer out of there in the off season. But we were lucky enough to get him. But those are the 2 ads. We didn't have a chance with Scarlett because he was property of Lakeshore.
Yeah, that's crazy how all that goes. How like all the rights and all, like I wouldn't be able to keep track of all that shit, man.
It's you can go like it's not like you don't have to keep it all in your head. It's I mean, we for the most part we know the players in the league and whose rights they own. But if you ever have any questions, because you can't talk to any players on the other team, it's obviously considered tampering. So if we have a player that we think is a free agent, we want to talk to, we can email or call the league and they can let us know what their status are, or we can go right on HCR as well, which is where I log all the information for our players and keep our, it's Hockey Canada registry. We can go on there, type in the player's name, and then see if he's who his rights are owned by and whether or not he's been released. So it makes it kind of simple if you have to, or if you know that there's somebody available before you give them a call, you can go on there and make sure that you know, you're not doing anything wrong by talking to them.
So essentially it's kind of like a hockey database kind of deal for everybody in the league.
Pretty much it tracks everybody in the OHA. So if there's a player, for instance, you know, Arch. Arch went and played in the States last year after he left Markham. He was playing for the Markham Royals. But in order for me to talk to him or finalize the deal, I actually had to go through Markham because they still own his rights. They protected him. And you're only allowed to protect 23 players after January 10th. So I actually had to go through Markham, and had I not known that, I know the guy in Markham, so it made it pretty easy. But had I not known that, and I would have talked to him and signed him, we could have got fined. So you always do your background check. It only takes a few minutes, and make sure that you're not doing anything wrong by calling a player.
Okay. So I know it's behind the scenes stuff, and some people might find it boring, but I don't. So I might as well ask you since I got you here. How do cards work? So is it talk about the contractual agreement? Like, is there a yearly limit you can sign players to a card, or does it renew yearly?
Yep. That's a good question. We have 35 cards that we can use throughout the year. So you can sign up to 25 before January 10th. Any team in the OHA, which the OHA includes the OJ, the GOJHL, and ourselves, as far as junior hockey goes. So anybody at that level can sign 25 players at the beginning of the year. It's really just there's a waiver that the players need to sign. There's a Hockey Canada card that I have to fill out. They don't have to sign. The PGHL agreement is an agreement that they do have to sign. That's basically stating that we own, the Essex 73s own their rights. We have the ability to trade them anywhere in the league. Once they sign with us, I don't think in junior hockey there's a ton of that goes on. I think most of the time you're talking to the player. There's trades that happen. No doubt we've done it too. Trades that happen without talking to the player, but it really depends on the player that you have, I think. So you get up to 35 cards. Once you use a card, it's gone. You can't, even if you signed a player for one game, that card's gone. You can have 25 guys on your HCR roster at any time up until January 10th. On January 10th, you go down to 23 cards, and that's where you stay for the rest of the year. You get 19 APs to add to your list, and then that creates another set of rules. But as far as cards go, a hockey card is really a PGHL agreement that the players sign, I sign, and that obviously gives us his rights for the season. You keep his rights until you keep that player's rights until so the following year nobody's a free agent again. Like whoever you played for the year before, they still own your rights. So it's not like you can jump around teams. Okay. Obviously, if there's a player that isn't going to play on your team the following year, you can trade him. You can trade his rights. Or for us, if we're recruiting players, we've got to take that into consideration when we sign guys. Even last year with us turning over our roster as much as we did last year, I think we used 32 cards. We didn't even get to 35. So it's rare that would happen. You never know when it'll happen, but it's rare that you would use that many cards. So I don't know if I explained that well enough to you, Tristan.
That's fantastic. And I got one more thing that's kind of it's more like a question about the stipulations and rules when it comes to higher up leagues. So you mentioned it, that's all inclusive with GOJHL, OJHL, and PJHL. What about guys who come down from CCHL? How does that work? Because I know Josh Root a few years ago, he was CC, then he came down to. So is that included, or is it a separate package that comes with that?
The CCHL isn't part of the OHA; it's part of the OHF. Which the OHA is under the OHF. So it's Hockey Canada, OHF, OHA, and then your leagues fall under that. So the CCHL, we did have to pay for Josh's rights when he came back that year. And of course, generally the first thing that happens is a player will get a hold of another player on the team and say, hey, is there any interest? And then from that point, I'll contact the general manager of the team and ask for permission to talk to the player. And some GMs will say yes, in Josh's situation, or in, other situations where the player is not going to come back there next year anyways. Like Josh was coming home So, you know, that general manager, it wasn't an issue to talk to
Okay.
Josh. And, you know, same thing with Arch, and same thing with, you know, even when you talk to general managers and you get a deal in place, you know, when we got a deal in place for a Goody or whatever, you still want to talk to the player and make sure they're bought in, interested in coming. But you always got to talk to the general manager, try to get the deal finalized before, or at least get permission to talk to the player. I would say most GMs at a higher level, when a player's coming down, will let you talk to him. Like, you know, I would say for the most part there, unless there's a situation where you say, hey, can I talk to the player? And they say no, then you don't call them. You wait to try to work out a deal.
Right.
But, you know, you always want to find out what the status of the player is. You know, not that any GMs would be crooked enough to send you a player that said he quit, but you never know. You want to see where their buy-in is. You know, and you know, even you know, Justin Schultz, if we're talking to players, you know, when we got Cracks back, I wanted to talk to Cracks first to see if he wanted to be here. You know, the players also have to sign a consent form when they come back, so that, you know, you can't take a player that's played in Leamington, sign him to a team that's maybe not close to us, and the player says, well, I don't want to play there, you know. So it's got to be coming back. It's got to be, you can trade players within the league to whoever you want without their consent, but coming back, the team's got to consent to the team they're coming back to. So
Okay.
the best thing to do, honestly, most of the GMs are pretty easy to talk to. If somebody, you know, certainly if somebody walked in, you know, the office here today and said, I don't want to play in Essex anymore, you know, I'd say, well, where do you want to go? And then, you know, I'd work out a deal with that GM and let that GM talk to him before that doesn't happen all the time. I mean, there are times with trades where we had a trade that went south one time because it was contractual to us talking to the players, and one of our players didn't want to go to another team. So the trade fell apart, which wasn't a good situation. So the trade situation is usually different from, you know, a drop down situation where guys are coming back. So
Gotcha.
yeah. So anyways, to answer your question, most of the time it's a phone call. Hey, do you mind if I talk to this guy? There's a really good chance the GM knows about it anyways. And certainly the first thing, you know, if a player does text you, the first thing you do is say, hey, did you get permission to talk to us? And you know, it's always nice to get a text or a call in writing or a text or an email to say, hey, you have permission to talk to so-and-so.
Yeah.
Last thing I have for you, last question I want to ask you is the future of the squad. Do you see any guys that are not necessarily there now that are going to be maybe coming up through the ranks that you're excited to see slide on that shirt?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think I mentioned a couple of our APs. I mean, these are guys that are probably going to have some, or could potentially have some junior B opportunities. A lot of the APs that have came out to play with us, I mean, those are some of the guys you focus on, some of the younger players. And again, we don't know what next year is going to bring either. Next year's up to me and guys like me and Riley to talk about next year. We don't talk about next year in the room too much. We talk about this year. Of course, we want the coach's input when we decide the players on our team this year. But next year, we've got some irons in the fire, if you will. But again, it's not something that we're talking about as a staff. It's more, you know, guys like myself and Riley trying to plan on, you know, what our team's going to look like next year. With the overage situation, with the junior B cards, you got to take all that into consideration. We got 4 junior B cards, and we got 4 OAs. We got 7 O2s right now, which are all OAs next year. So, you know, that time will come. We're gonna see how it shakes out here this year and figure out what we're gonna do next year. But it would be poor planning to not have a plan for next year, and not necessarily from recruiting, but what our team's gonna look like next year too. Like, is there anybody that's gonna move up? You know, is Guvermont gonna want to move up? I don't know. Like, it's gonna be up to him, right? We certainly encourage it. We certainly encourage it. We want to be here to help develop if we can. But, you know, on the flip side, we'd love to keep them. So it's up to the player, and you never know, right? We've had guys that like Cranker. He's asked every year if he wants to play junior B, and he says no. Like that's not like I'm the Dominskys, Shirky, Balmy, Brady, like all these guys have opportunities to go to these camps at the beginning of the year, and they want to stay, which is good for us. And at exit interviews, we'll get a feel for who's doing what next year and who's committed to coming back, and then figure it out from there. So that's next year's problem. This year's very exciting. We want to get our injured guys back and put the best product that we can on the ice here, and hopefully be able to compete for a championship at the end of the year.
For sure.
So in my last question here, in speaking when you mentioned irons in the fire and development, and along that same frame of thought, I just want to ask, is there a rule as it pertains to OHL drafted players? So obviously the OHL team would want them to play junior B if they're not in the OHL for experience, but is there ever a situation where an OHL drafted player would go down to the PJHL as a third tier?
Yeah. Last year we offered a couple players that were drafted cards, and we'll even get as involved in talking to the OHL general manager to say where's the best fit for the player. So players, this is going to be my opinion, and it's not an opinion that I may share with everybody. There might be guys that disagree. So, but my opinion is if you get drafted in the OHL and you can't crack a junior B team, there are players that will go down in AP and play midget AAA and then AP with teams like Leamington. And certainly if that's what they want to do, that's good for them. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a player's choice. We're not going to we're not going to get in a situation where we upset a player to a point, where he doesn't know what to do. So, we give him an option as a 16-year-old that got drafted. We only get one 16-year-old card. We can offer that 16-year-old. We've offered draft picks before, and of late, I got to think back to, I think Bryce Ryan, who took it. But up until then, like as a 16-year-old, we haven't had any players that got drafted come to our level. Now, having said that, I think a drafted player would develop with us. And I'm not saying they're not going to develop with AAA, but some people go back into AAA to try to get the U18 draft or the next draft. And like we have some players like McBride and stuff like that got drafted in that draft. So some people will go back to that draft, and we certainly support that. I mean, at the end of the day, we can only do what we can do. We put our sales pitch on a player to say, hey, we'd love to have you here. Hopefully you can develop to get to the OHL next year. If we can do that for you, great. And the junior B teams are putting a sales pitch on them too, to say, hey, you go play AAA, and the AAA teams want them. And quite frankly, Hockey Canada wants those players to return to midget, for the most part. That's why they only give us one card. But at the end of the day, we do our best to try to get the player here. We had a really good 16-year-old class come out this year. I mean, really good. And, if I could have signed more, I might have. But to answer your question, it really depends on what the player wants to do. The trend right now is, with Goovy wanted to be here. And I know there was a couple of other guys that if we would have offered them the spot, they would have been here. But some of the draft picks have gone back to play AAA and AP and junior B level. That's a personal choice. I'm not sure. Again, if the player's drafted, I think we can help them develop here. I think they're playing again. I think they're playing against some older people that maybe a little tougher, a little bigger, a little stronger.
Yeah.
But again, it's up to the players and parents. I mean, to be honest with you, we won't get to the point where we're putting too much pressure on a player. If they want to do that, then good for them. I think they should do what they want.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, and there's also a flip side of that coin where a player can just, if they're too low down, they can just dominate and they kind of remain stagnant. They never really grow in any respect of their game because they're already ahead of that level. Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, like we have two of the Windsor AAA kids, McCabe and Dravisevic, that signed AP cards with us. And a lot of them, we would have signed more, but a lot of them have signed junior B cards too. And those guys have came out and been absolutely unbelievable. Like, I mean, and they enjoy being here, which is great. I know they like playing with their AAA team too, but I mean,
those guys can play at this level, and they've proven it when they've come out. So it's a tough decision. I understand that for the players. Sometimes there's a financial situation. Sometimes it's, hey, we want to get, try to maximize the ice time. This year, I know the regional TELUS Cup tournaments in Windsor, so there's probably some incentive there for some scouts to come down. But quite frankly, we've got scouts at our games looking at our guys too. So it's up to the players. At camp we try to get, at mini camp we try to get the best 16-year-olds back, and from there narrow it down and hopefully have an opportunity with one of them. So
yeah, and it's just the reason I bring up that dominance at the level of junior C is because I remember, well, it was the year before COVID when Essex suffered that second round loss to Lakeshore. I remember a guy, I believe he was OHL drafted. I could be wrong, but he honestly didn't belong at that level. It was Jake Nimmo. Just watching him, it was very like he's upper echelon when it comes to playmaking, and I don't know what the deal was with his OHL club, but watching him on Lakeshore was pretty freaky, especially when he was younger.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll be honest with you, the 4 overagers that they had last year were all junior B players, like LaRue, Jacques, Weston, and Nemo. We're all like high-end junior B players, and when you get those guys back, it's huge. It's huge. You're not getting an average junior B guy back. You're getting a guy that put up points and has come back to play his over OA year with and those are the guys, quite honestly, that you need. I mean, I hate to say it, but even like the drop down players, generally help you out because they're older, more mature, played at a higher level. Now, having said that, those guys came back and wanted to win. They weren't guys that just came back to go through the motions. So,
right.
Those 4 guys in particular were obviously a big part of why they won the Schmaltz Cup last year. So,
for sure, Mike, this has been great, man.
Yep.
Shit, we are hammering you for a little bit.
Oh, it's good. Hey, I enjoy talking to you guys about it, and I'm glad you guys are interested, and you guys have supported us very well. So I mentioned it to you, Ant, and you, Tristan. If there's anything you guys need or I can help out with, just let me know. We appreciate all your support. We like seeing you guys at the games, and it's a really good fit for us.
I love it. All right, Mike, thanks so much, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you,
been
guys.
A pleasure.
I appreciate it. Me as well. It was nice talking to you guys.
I've lost my fight with time. My numbers are